But it becomes somewhat extremely painful and stressful because some people just focus solely on this and they forget about taking my daily walk here today. And today's topic would be on don't cry for money. So it's fair to say that having money has a huge impact on our lifestyles. So it can either make you or break you in our society. So having a lot of money or having a lack of money has a lot of impact on the way we live. And it's actually the measurement of what our society places upon us on whether we're successful or not. So it makes sense how money makes us cry from that perspective because of those measurements placed on us by society. But when it comes down to it, if you think about it, it's just a piece of paper, you know, and a lot of people fail to really notice that all it is just something that's burnable, really. So, but of course, money becomes extremely important when you take a look at all your bills and on whether or not you can put food on the table as well. It becomes pretty important from that perspective. And although it is just a piece of paper, it does allow you to live the lifestyle that you do today. It also makes us pretty upset as well because you see people around us that actually don't really put a lot of effort into their job life, and they make so much more than us. And it's the case is true for those who work extremely hard and they don't really make much at all. So from that perspective, there's good reason that money would make you cry. So what many of us do is we focus so much on trying to attain more wealth, and we'll do anything to do so, and with the belief that it would make us happier in the longer term. But the thing is, there's actually been studies done on this very topic. Does money actually make you happy? And it was Princeton University that came out with an interesting study of literally hundreds of different people who participated in the study. And what they found was that as long as an individual reaches a certain amount of money, anything higher than that actually doesn't add to your happiness. And that amount was concluded as being between $75,000 and $80,000 US per year. So essentially what that means is anything above $80,000 doesn't necessarily make you more happier. The study actually shows that the majority of people buy the same stuff anyways. You know, they buy the phones and they buy the latest gadgets of other kinds, and they buy those homes and the cars. It's all essentially the same stuff, and everyone could pretty much afford it to a certain degree anyways. But for those who did participate in that study, it was found that the majority of them did want to gain more money, but just didn't know how to. And so people do cry for money. And if you are in that kind of situation, you may want to reevaluate your financial situation and looking at how you can maybe cut your expenses. And that is where minimalism probably fits pretty good into the equation. And the reason why that minimalism works so well is because you essentially follow a philosophy where you live below your means, not above it. And the majority of us here in North America live above our means. And if you look at the national average for the savings rate, it's only 6.5%, which is nuts. There's no way you can retire with that amount of money being saved per month. But for myself, I was in debt, major debt, when I got my first job. And I spent it on a silly little mid-sized engine sports car that I couldn't really afford at all. And the only reason why I purchased it was to impress my friends. and it was probably the worst decision of my life, but at the same time it was the best decision of my life as well, because today I can say that I look back to that purchase and I know that it was probably the worst decision of my life to get myself into debt as I did. So I remember that experience, and I place it on all of my purchases, especially the big purchases. I try and factor out whether or not it's something that I need for the longer term, and deep down I try and reason with myself and figuring out if I really need that particular product. Everything I buy has a purpose, and I also follow a philosophy. It might sound a little bit religious, but it's based on Buddhism, where everything you have has a soul, and because it has a soul, you take care of it as long as you can. So I have things in my home that I have for over a decade, and they're still in good working order. But of course I understand why a lot of people do strive to earn more money, and it's because the cost of living is getting super high around us, and a lot of things are just not affordable. What a lot of people end up doing is, so they can afford that lifestyle they're trying to attain, is by finding some side hustles, or finding a part-time job just to supplement their full-time jobs. But by doing so, it takes so much time away from yourself and just builds up that stress. But it becomes somewhat extremely painful and stressful, because some people just focus solely on this and they forget about their own passions, and they just think about gaining more money, and it leads to kind of a empty life, I would say, if the pursuit is to just gain more materialism and consumerism. But if you are in this type of situation, you want to look at alternatives to this as well, and that's why we have adopted minimalism. And what it has done for us is we spend a lot less, and some of you may think it's depriving yourself, but it absolutely is not, because we just don't really care about all this stuff that's super popular in our society today. And if you don't have it, you don't worry about it, and there's a lot of stuff out there that people buy, and it takes time away from their passions because they're busy maintaining all that stuff in their life. Like, every item that you buy requires a lot of time to maintain it, and when you have less stuff like we do, there's a lot less worry, and you also save money knowing that you didn't buy those products at all in the first place. And what ends up happening is a lot of the stuff that you do purchase ends up in your basement somewhere, or your attic somewhere, or your garage, just collecting dust. And just look around your home at this time and see whether or not there were certain purchases you didn't really need to purchase in the first place. So maybe focusing on minimalism or all the alternatives might be the solution for you to stop crying about money, because it is essentially just a piece of paper if you think about it. But of course, it's not as simplistic as that, I understand. But the association with the money that you have is based on your behavior, right? And money in itself is just a piece of paper, it's true, but your behavior is very much variable. With the proper influences or mindset, you may be able to influence yourself in believing that there's other alternatives to living a life of materialism and consumerism. And perhaps, since we hit financial independence, we've gained so much more time to spend on the things that we're interested in. And it's a fantastic feeling, having way less is actually having a lot more. And I used to think that was just a cliche. It is a cliche, but we're living that lifestyle now, and it's absolutely great. You know, it's absolutely true. Having less is having more, and it really cleans up a lot of the clutter in your life as well. Not only just the physical stuff, but the mental stuff as well. So you can apply that philosophy to everything in your life. But by following minimalism, you'll definitely have a lot more time on your hands and to think about your own self improvement and your passions as well. You may want to look at looking at the clutter you have with your social circles as well. You always want to keep those people around you that have a positive influence on you and not a negative presence. So from that perspective, you have more time to really improve yourself and your surroundings with just a change of your behavior. So although it's very much challenging to do so, because we have the influences of our friends and family around us, always carrying around the latest gadgets and believing that that's what makes them happy. I mean, it does temporarily make them happy, I find, but like this friend of mine who bought a sports car, it made him super happy, but now he hardly even talks about it, and it's only been like half a year. And it's crazy how people put all this effort into buying these objects that actually doesn't bring them happiness for the longer term. So yeah, if you're having a stressful time right now on especially about money, just think of just changing your behavior. Give it a try. You know, maybe try it out for a month or so, and you know, consider minimalism. Just think about not thinking about earning more, but just think about buying less. You know, it's all about the change in behavior. And another thing you want to look at is yourself and whether or not you really care what other people think around you. You know, I'm actually at the point where I actually don't really care whether or not I have a nice house or a fast car, and I'm really happy for that. So I was able to change my behavior at a younger age, and like I said, being in debt at that age was a good experience for me, and it was life-changing. And I'm glad that I did experience it, because it made me realize that I had to change my behavior. And I'm glad I ran into that situation at a very young age, and it has motivated me to be the person that I am today in living a life of frugality, and which has led me to minimalism. Tell me what you think of crying about money in the comment section below. If you like this vlog, please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell for more of my coming content here. Thank you for watching my vlog. Be free, gain wealth, and travel far.